Thank you for joining us for today's Hub 101. If you want to watch the screen, we've got some slides and listen to the music. We'll be getting started in just a couple seconds. Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us for another wonderful Hub 101. Woo! Welcome back, everyone. Thank you again. Welcome. Thank you for joining Austin Coming Together and the Austin Community Hub. My name is Janelle Martin.
I'm Imani Moore.
Hey. Okay, so as some of you may know and be familiar with ACT already, ACT is a backbone agency for collective impact, serving a network of nonprofit, faith-based, public and private member organizations. As part of ACT, the Austin Community Hub is a safe space to intentionally and thoughtfully engage disconnected families and individuals in collaboration with our member base to securely connect community members to holistic services such as career counseling, housing, continuing education, and much, much more.
Thank you, Janelle. Part of these services include informing our community members about the different organizations we work with and the great resources and programs that they have to offer. So we created Hub 101.
Hey, well, we've officially been at Hub 101s for a little over a year and a half now. And last year, we had the opportunity to connect with the AFT team. So since January is the start of new beginnings and goals for the new year, we want to continue with that tradition and talk about upcoming development projects coming in with Austin. Like I mentioned, last year we got to connect with AFT and learn all about the Austin Community Plan, Austin Forward Together. Today, we're going to dive a little bit deeper into that plan to talk specifically about one project, the Aspire Center for Workforce Innovation.
Okay. Today we got it good one, y'all. We're going to begin with a presentation from Executive Director Crane. Said he was one of the most notable Black leaders in 2022. I call him the man with the plan, the Honorable Mr. Darnell Shields. Come on, y'all, let's give it up for him.
Thank you so much, Imani. That was an awesome introduction. You guys are too kind. Hi, everybody. As Imani said, I am Darnell Shields. I serve as the Executive Director of Austin Coming Together. And I am a lifelong Austin resident, born and raised in the Austin community, have grown up there and continue to live in the Austin community as well. Started out at ACT as a volunteer. I've been there since the inception of the organization. Started out as a volunteer and back in 2010, and I became the executive director in 2017. And so it is very privileged to be in this organization, to be a part of this organization, a part of the movement happening in the Austin community, my community. And so really excited to be able to join you all today. Thank you, Janelle and Imani, for allowing me to host and talk. I know they get tired of me talking, but they thought it would be great if I could come and join you all today. And so I'm very excited to share with you about the update with the Austin Quality of Life Plan, but even more importantly, something that has evolved from this plan, a really awesome project called the Aspire Center for Workforce Innovation. And if you allow me to share my slides, I will begin my presentation. All right, hoping that you all can see that. So what is this awesome project? What is this transformational development that is happening in our community, breaking ground this year, later this year? It is a $38 million project that is bringing forth a large-scale workforce development center full of all different types of attributes that will create economic advancement within the Austin community, while also repurposing a closed CPS school located at the intersection of Central and Madison, very prominent intersection in our community. And so just to give you guys a little background on kind of how we got here, I know some folks aren't a stranger to some of the plight that the Austin community has been faced with since before the 1970s. This community has really been plagued with disinvestment, has been somewhat in a crisis state from a social and economic decline, so much so that we've suffered population loss, even to the degree where now our community continues to change in terms of its demographics and all those other things since the 2000s. And so this has really prompted a lot of leaders within our community over the last several decades to really mobilize and come together to best serve the community and address all of the issues or the impediments that the community has recognized is holding them back. And so one of the things that was really exciting is that the community really came around a powerful vision back in 2018 to really consolidate all of their efforts, concentrate the work that they are doing in unity to really help create a more healthy and prosperous community. And this effort formalized into what we call the Austin Quality of Life Plan, called Austin Forward Together. And with that, various efforts have come through this plan that was formed, published in 2018, and started implementing in 2019 through a multitude of partnership within the community residents, as well as community-based organizations and partners. And one of those organizations, the Westside Health Authority, which is also a member of ACT, similarly around that time in 2018, was also in the process of acquiring one of the closed CPS school buildings, Robert Emmett School, that was closed back in 2013. They were in the process of actually acquiring this building in an effort to, in response to community, to make sure that it didn't fall into the wrong hands, because the community really expressed the need for various types of resources available within their community, and not necessarily having some place to house those resources in terms of training and things of that nature. And so this organization acquired the building, and they actually committed the building to the community in terms of what would actually be designed to go inside of the building and what purpose and use it would serve for the community. And so in my slides, you actually see some of the images of some of those planning sessions with community, where community members actually sat down with architects and urban planners, along with Westside Health Authority and Austin, coming together to really think through how would we utilize this building? How can we reimagine the purpose for it, where it would be purposeful for the community? And with that, all of that effort and momentum that was cast through all of those planning sessions, the awesome thing that came about through our partnership with the United Way neighborhood network, connection to a relationship with a very award-winning architectural design firm called Lamar Johnson Collaborative. And they came aboard recognizing that this was very meaningful to the community, and actually helped bring forth concepts, turns those concepts into actual designs in terms of how the community wanted to see this place reimagined. And moving with those designs and having all of that in hand, Austin coming together partnered with Westside Health Authority, as well as by the Hand Club, to even apply for a very large scale community development grant competition called the Chicago Prize. It's one of the first of its kind in 2020, hosted by the Pritzker Traubert Foundation. And while we did not win the prize, we were one of 6 finalists that really helped to advance a lot of the work that this effort needed to be able to come to fruition. And so with this being anchored in civic infrastructure of moving forward on the quality of life plan, strategies and actions, as well as proven leadership from different organizations like ACT and Westside Health Authority, this initiative called the Aspire Initiative was actually formed. And with that, it's basically a cradle to career continuum that was suggested, is that in order for a community to thrive, you need access to various resources simultaneously throughout your lifespan within a community. And so the thought was that, you know, families with young children growing up in the Austin community needed to have resources that would lend to them in terms of education and wellness, post-secondary education as well, workforce development for income supports, and they need stabilized coverage and places to stay in terms of housing, so that those families and those young people that are growing up in those homes can actually continue to succeed their family members and even age in place to be rooted within the area that they live in and be successful from where they have been born into the city. And just to give a sense of what the Aspire Initiative looks like and why it's so impactful, the thought is that you can have this cradle to career continuum really concentrated in a very localized area within the community. And if you're looking at this map here, you can see that the Austin community, Austin is the largest, geographically, the largest community area within the city of Chicago. And so thinking about how can we have the greatest amount of impact with various investments that we are putting forth. And so the Aspire Initiative, what it puts forth is to be able to take a concentrated area within the community and actually leverage several projects that are actually going forth along this cradle to career continuum, which is something what we call the optimal impact zone, and the hopes that it can create a catalyst of opportunity investment that would now ripple throughout the community. And so if you're looking at the larger map here, you can see each of the projects are numbered. The Aspire Center for Workforce Innovation being number 3, which is actually centered right here at Central and Madison. And of the 4 projects, this project was seen as the one that needed to be launched first in hopes that it would help catalyze the initiation and actualization of the other projects within the Aspire Initiative within this concentrated area. And so let's talk more about the Aspire Center for Workforce Innovation. Here's a beautiful image rendering that was created by Lamar Johnson Collaborative to showcase the beautiful new look of the building. What you're looking at right now is the front of the building, which was actually once the back of the building in terms of that. And you'll see later in some of our other images how that directional view is lending to the beauty of it. But this center, one of the reasons why it was so important to bring something forth of this nature is because for many, many decades within our community, workforce training and life skills development have been in short supply. And whether you were a aspiring working age youth or an adult raising a family, you know, dislocation and having dislocation in terms of workforce has been sort of the norm within our community. And so this creates a domino effect of a poor education system. It creates a domino effect of student decline and a number of other issues that are plagued within the community in terms of housing, median housing values and others. And so this stigma has long been placed on the Austin community. And so one of the ways that the community saw best to be able to address it is to be able to build a center that would actually provide access to skills training, sector training for various industries, especially those industries that have low barriers to entry for our residents within the community, whether they have various challenges that make it harder to employ and those things of that nature. And so the ideal came about is that where would we actually house these training resources if we were to be able to bring those things forth, because we already have organizations within the community that provide training, that provide access to those various resources, but in most cases don't have the adequate facilities to be able to meet the community's needs at scale. And so that's where this concept of redeveloping a once CPS school building, elementary school building that was closed in 2013 into a place that could be inspiring and provide all types of opportunity, sort of a one-stop shop for individuals to gain access to the skills that they need. And so here's a look at bird's eye view of what this center looks like. You're looking at Central and Madison, right here at the intersection, Central going north and south, Madison east to west. And again, this is, or once was, or was the back of the building, And in the design, we wanted to really create more of a campus feel. And so the idea was to be able to build on, add on an addition in terms of this atrium that would now turn the rear of the building into the front. And so as you are either driving down Madison or coming down Central, you can see sort of where you want to be, and you can see what you need to aspire to. And so this was the ideal, to create this beautiful plaza area here, a place for community, in addition to what's happening inside of the building as well. And so within here, you'll have things like an advanced manufacturing training center, small business incubation, community hub, as well as event space. And here's some of the site details. I think it may be a little difficult to see some of the photos on the left, but just talking through on this first level, there will be a number of different resources in terms of social supports, as well as workforce training, and like advanced manufacturing training. Organization by the name of JARC who's already active in the community, providing resources for advanced manufacturing training. They're actually moving their site here to the Aspire Center, where they can now train residents in CNC and welding and all those other different in-demand skill sets as part of the manufacturing industry, as well as Austin Coming Together will be moving its operations here in terms of its Austin Community Hub to be able to better connect individuals to within the network of agencies that we have, as well as other different types of services will be in the building as well, whether it's re-entry or youth development. All of these things will be available within the community right here in one location. And Janelle, did you want to say a little more about the Austin Community Hub's presence in the building?
Yes, so we here at the Austin Community Hub are actually really excited for the Aspire Center for some of the reasons Darnell is laying out exactly. So as we mentioned earlier, here at the Austin Community Hub, our goal and our mission is to connect residents to resources and services depending on what they're needing for in order to help them with their next steps. When we move into the Aspire Center and you come into the Austin Community Hub for services, job training, we will not only be able to connect you to those services, but we can walk you down the hall, down to the next door to whoever that service is that you're looking for. It's no longer just going to be, okay, I made a phone call referral, I made an email referral, they should get back to you in a couple of days. I can literally walk you 2 doors down to your next meeting that's going to be in 5 minutes. I can walk you 3 more doors down from there to another service that's going to be help you out with something else. And then at the end of that, you can go to the end of the hall and go to your JARC training for the rest of the day. This center is going to be awesome, and it's really going to bring around that holistic form of services that we're really looking to connect residents to. So the hub is pumped for this.
Definitely. And again, as Janelle was speaking about all of the interconnectivity, this is something that our community members have not had enough access to. And we want to be able to, again, bring things closer to them, make it more accessible. And also along with that, other amenities as well. You know, while you're here getting your training or social sector supports, you also need to be able to gain access to some financial opportunity in terms of retail banking and financial services. And one of the tenants that is looking to be an anchor tenant within the building is our friends at BMO Harris Bank. So to make sure that there's more things available within this space as well, we're also in talks to bring about a cafe type services here and other amenities that will be available for folks while they're in the building. Again, and there's even potential for a federally qualified health center to be based in this building as well. Again, really thinking about how we can have holistic services available for community members within their own community where they don't have to travel so far out to be able to gain access to the things that they need, as well as event space and areas where they can have meetings, or if they just want to be able to sit at the bar and at the cafe bar for some homework or things like that. And so here's a 3-dimensional look of inside the building. You're looking at the first floor here. And again, this was a CPS school. And so being able to actually restore this building to where it still has remnants of, you know, some of that historic look, but also just much more functional for sort of modern day uses along the lines of what we're looking to do in terms of workforce support and social supports for community members. And here's the second floor. And as I mentioned, that event space, there's a rooftop terrace here just at this second level. And this is going to be a really beautiful space for community to be able to access, as well as to be able to host various events in terms of nonprofit organizations that are within the building, as well as this mezzanine where you can sit along this bar right here to be able to do homework or what have you, or meet for coffee. And all of those things that, you know, we take for granted, but are not very accessible within our community currently. And here's that third floor. Again, potential space for this federally qualified health center, as well as other wellness type services can be available within this space, making this a very holistic place in terms of a centralized location for community members to be able to access the things that they need, and also in a way that is aesthetically pleasing to the eye and very beautiful in terms of its design. Here's a look inside of that atrium in the lobby area. And this is what we imagined. This looks like a scene from maybe someplace down in the Loop, but just imagine that here on the west side of Chicago in the Austin community, looking inside to see some of the other decor of the building, Lamar Johnson Collaborative, very wonderful renderings. And again, it just really helps you visualize the impact that a building and a structure and center like this can have on the community members in terms of their skills training development, and in terms of how they see their community and how they care about their community. Here's another image. And so in addition to this, in addition to this development going forth, something that you may have seen if you've been near that corner or been near the intersection, we've actually, in partnership with the city of Chicago and the mayor's office, have actually created a pop space at this particular site as well. And this space is now active. It's called POPF. It has a fitness theme, and it was really meant to help activate the space while we wait for the development, the final development of the center to be constructed and so forth. Because again, we need the resources now. And so what are the ripple effects of a center like this benefiting the community? Well, it really comes down to kind of 4 areas. One is job creation. Just in the initial of this center being built, there's going to be construction jobs created around that, labor jobs, as well as even once the center is open, looking at the amount of individuals that can be trained over 5 years in the near term, as well as other living wage careers that can be seeded through this effort. And then in terms of income, increasing the median income within the community, that can also be affected by jobs being created and people gaining access to the skills they need to acquire different types of employment, as well as amplifying our service partners. The linkages, as Janelle spoke about, where organizations can now work together in tandem to really be able to help meet people where they are in terms of the barriers that they might have. This is a very powerful opportunity to share facilities, as well as keeping costs down, making things much more amenable for community members to be able to access the resources that they need. And so we see this having a community hub as a base for universal intake and referral. So no longer through partnership, we can really help meet everybody's needs, whether this organization or that organization provides the services or not. Together through partnership and being all within a shared facility, individuals won't get turned away. And the other is community resources. As I said, we have the POPFit recreation space, cafe space, got space for FQHC in terms of the Federally Qualified Health Center, lift zone opportunity there for Wi-Fi to be able to gain access to the internet to affect the digital divide, as well as access to financial services, financial opportunity, and event spaces for gathering and meeting within the community, which again, not necessarily as accessible as they need to be given the size of the Austin community. So there's great need for those types of spaces to keep community members together. And then the other piece to it, it's rapid and high impact. This site is very accessible from public transportation. It's centered between the green line as well as the blue line. It's also near the 290 expressway. There's a number of bus lines that run through Madison as well as Central. And again, there are other elementary schools within the area, a number of different resources nearby in terms of parks, even the KCA, the K. Ryan Center for the Art, a newly 1,000-seat auditorium theater, which is right around the corner. So we really feel like this is building a tremendous amount of impact in terms of accessibility and the things that will be visually located. Now, you wonder, how do you bring a project like this about? Well, you need a team. You need a team that is dedicated and that is highly skilled. And in this case, it was a collaboration between the Westside Health Authority and Austin coming together, but we were not alone. We had the help of many technical assistance partners that have come alongside us and to help us bring this to fruition. Groups like Lamar Johnson Collaborative, as well as IFF in terms of financial services, legal services, Applegate and Thorne. Also, our anchor tenants that I mentioned, JARC, BMO Harris Bank, and not to forget, and the most important, community stakeholder groups like the Austin Forward Together task forces, as well as groups like Good Neighbors and the Leaders Network. Again, you have to have all of these different resources and organizations apart to help drive a project as impactful as this and transformational as this within community and led by community. And here's a look at what, once the center is open, Again, the Westside Health Authority, they are the property owner. They own the building, the land through their acquisition. But in terms of operating the site, it will be a joint effort between Westside Health Authority and Austin coming together, where we will form a joint entity that will now allow this site to operate independently in terms of its direction, as well as tenant management and staffing. So this center will be self-sustaining in terms of its facilities management and even outreach and PR and staffing. And so that it can operate as a resource that can continue to be a conduit for more catalyzation of investment within the area. And in terms of what does it take to resource a development of this nature, to repurpose a closed school? Well, the Aspire Center for Workforce Innovation total development costs are around a little bit over $38 million. And when you think about how do you actually garner the resources that you need to be able to actually bring a project like that to fruition, it takes a number of years, and it takes a multitude of partnership to be able to bring forth and make the case to bring forth city and state funds, new market tax credits, equity, as well as philanthropic investment. And as you see, there's the mix of resources that this project has been able to amass to be able to meet the development cost needs here. And so just kind of thinking the trajectory of this very powerful project and what it means for the community and how we're looking in terms of when we started it to where we are now, getting ready to actually break ground. As I said, the whole effort started back in 2018 through the quality of life plan being started, and simultaneously WHA purchasing the Emmett School property, really working together to have that visioning with community to reimagine the space, and then leveraging partnerships through the United Way, BMO Harris to bring forth Lamar Johnson architectural firm to help create those concepts and bring those concepts to reality that the community long desired. And then even taking advantage of opportunities, collaborative opportunities like the Chicago Prize, to be able to advance the effort as a finalist, to attract more resources to the project through the notoriety and the publicity that was received from that competition. And now going forward in 2021, starting to receive large scale investment, United Way, BMO Harris, for example, $5 million put in, as well as the state of Illinois putting forth a $10 million allocation through the ushering of our state representative, LaShawn Ford, and then even having to go through a rezoning process, moving the school from a residential use to a business use that is in line with the future uses that we have for the building. And that continued on into 2022, where we were awarded another $7.25 million from the city of Chicago, as well as awarded $2 million from the We Rise Together Fund of the Chicago Community Trust. And so all of those efforts have really gotten us to where we are now, where we're looking at demolition and construction permits being anticipated in March, a groundbreaking ceremony in April, and construction being scheduled in late April, early May. And so we're very excited about this project taking shape. We're very excited about what it'll mean for our community, what it'll mean for my community, and really excited to share more of it as it continues to progress. So thank you very much for allowing me to share more of an introspective into this project. And definitely right now, I believe we can take some questions.
Yes. So if anybody who is watching this right now, if during the presentation you had questions, comments, concerns, please feel free to toss those into the chat. Now is a great opportunity. We've got some great questions for Darnell. We already have a couple pulled up, so we'll go ahead and get started on those. Let me see. So first and foremost, we've got a couple questions. One starting off with, how are you going to recruit and market so that all community residents can benefit from these programs?
How are you going to recruit a market? So the interesting thing is, and I think that's one of the advantages of a development such as this, because this really evolved from community members and in partnership with their community-based organizations that are already currently serving them, coming together to really look at, hey, we need you to be able to train more people. We need you to be able to come to scale in terms of what you provide and the resources and the connections that we can get to. And so the way that we're looking at it is that we're going to be able to leverage the existing infrastructure to be able to make sure that more of the community knows that not only can they get access to this training, but more of them can get access to those resources. And so that's one of the most powerful ways we see it. And again, the other piece to it is this center has long, and this building has long been the representation of the degradation of our community, the desolation. And so when you drive past Central and Madison, you already expect to see something that is going to be depressing. Mm-hmm. And just imagine people able to drive past this site and now see something inspiring. That word is going to travel very fast, and folks are going to know, everyone's going to know, because it's not going to be a very conservative looking building. It is going to be very much a very beautiful building, almost a symbol of our prosperity. And so we believe that is going to attract people to want to come and be curious. Hey, what's in here? Is there anything in here for me? Yes.
Sweet. Thank you, Darnell. Let's see. Next we've got, Amani, you want to take this one?
Yeah, sure. All right, next question. Okay, what brought you to do this work in Austin? That's the first part of that. And what is your personal stake in the Aspire Center and the Austin community as a whole?
Oh, man. I will say very short and sweet. What brought me to do this work in the community in Austin is one person, Ruth Kimball. I always sum it up because even though I grew up in this community and I actually grew up right down the street from Emmett School. So I have many memories of being, the good and the bad as it relates to my community in Austin. But in my pursuit of becoming who I needed to be and becoming a productive citizen and so forth, you often look at growing up in a community like Austin, you think about, how can I become successful leaving this place? And I spent many years really pursuing that. And it wasn't until I was tapped by Ruth Kimball that, hey, you can be successful here in your community. And your community is not going to change if you don't help it change. Mm-hmm. And she helped me realize that if I wanted this place, if I wanted my home, my community to be different, to be better, then I needed to play a role in that. And I needed to commit myself to doing that. And so that's the stake I have in it. I want Austin to become a place that I can be proud of, that everybody can be proud of, just as they are proud of the great places that they come from. This is where I come from, and I want everybody to be proud of where I come from, and I don't want to be ashamed of where I'm from either.
Second that. I second that.
That's a good answer. Let's see. Next, we've got, as a nonprofit organization, what led you to do real estate development, and how has that impacted your organization?
You know, it's interesting. I think community-based organizations, in some cases, we have become sort of the, I've heard someone call it the accidental developer or the unintended developer. But I think it's just where we are now in our, just in the way in which we have to serve our communities. You know, community development organizations usually are always in place to try to bridge the gap. And for us in the Austin community, the gap was there was no one doing development. No one's developing our real estate in a meaningful way that best serves our community. And so it's the natural evolution that community-based organizations move in to bridge the gap. And that's what we've been doing. And we're not alone. There's a number of other community-based organizations here in the Austin community that are doing the same. And while it's a new space for a lot of us, long as we have the community support, I know we're going to be able to do well because we're helping to bridge the gap for the things that the community needs. And in most cases, we're trailblazing where there's been no support.
I think, no, I think you touched on a really important thing of, that this work hadn't really been done before, and, especially in this community. And I think it's really fascinating that as a nonprofit, and not just as a nonprofit, but a nonprofit that came for and by the community, this is very much what we're doing. And tying into that, we had someone who asked, since this is like a building for the community, by the community, developed by a nonprofit in the community, what is accessibility going to look like for the community? Will there be rental event spaces as an option at the Aspire Center? Will community residents be able to maybe come in and use our computer labs? What will that look like in terms of accessibility for them?
Yes, I will say very plainly, yes. This building is for the community. These developments are for them to be able to access, because we want community members to be able to do the things that they need to do and what they hear about happening in other more affluent communities. These are the types of resources that we need in our community as well. And so again, being able to leverage a space like the Aspire Center to host block club meetings and things like that, of course you will. Where else would you do those things? We want you to do those things here. That's what this development is for. It's also to provide access to the skills resources. But again, community needs to have space where they can come together so that their creativity can flourish. And so you need space to do that in most cases. And that is a big part of the reason why we are trying to really be coordinated in terms of the partnership to make sure that this space is self-sustaining, so that now that burden of costs and all of those things that really prevent community from leveraging spaces can be moved out the way.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. I got a question. Usually when you have projects of this magnitude, sometimes there's like a group of naysayers or a group of people that may feel like they've been left out of the conversation. So I want to ask, how did you engage the community in the planning of the Aspire Center, and to what degree, and how do you plan on to continue to keep the community engaged and involved in what's going on there?
Yeah, it's interesting. I've seen that happen with different projects and other developments. And the thing that I always look at with the Aspire Center is that, it's been quite unique of an experience, because a lot of what is happening with this site, this development, was seeded by the community. It came in response to community members wanting more. Mm-hmm. And whether it was not wanting the school to fall into the wrong hands, that actually came forth in a community meeting within the community. And that's where the response to purchase the school building, to now have to give the community the opportunity to plan on what it would be versus someone else coming in from outside the community and saying, hey, we're doing this for you. And now it's very different, where the property was actually acquired by community-based organization within the community, and the community members, representatives from the community, actually planned out, work together to say, hey, how can we implement the community's plan, and how can we leverage this building to do so? And so that was a big part of the initial community engagement. And even since then, we've hosted forums, we've hosted charrettes around engaging leaders in the community on how to improve on all of the things that have brought forth with this site thus far. And we want to continue to do that, even in this opportunity of visiting with you all and presenting this project today. Is also another way to be able to always keep the community abreast of what's happening with the site, and participating in other future summits. Again, always looking to be able to make sure the community is connected, and that it's a two-way street.
Mhm.
Okay. And Darnell, correct me if I'm wrong, and we can be sure to reiterate this later, but there's a way for Austin residents to be directly involved this coming Saturday, right?
Yes, there is.
Okay. Can you tell us a little bit
Speaking
more?
of which, there is a community summit, a community-wide Austin Forward Together summit that is
Hold on.
happening this Saturday.
I might have a flyer for it. Give me just 1 second.
Oh, wow.
Hold on. I do. I just so happen to have. So if anybody is interested in this coming Saturday, we will be having an Austin Forward Together Summit. And it's going to be from 9 to 1 at By the Hand Club for Kids. And from my understanding, there will be breakfast served as well.
There will be. There'll be
Okay.
breakfast served as well, and there will actually be snacks provided throughout the day.
Entertainment as well.
Yes, got a beautiful invitation by one of our youth performance groups called the Happiness Club. If there are any Happiness Club fans out there, they will be performing to kick us off. Very exciting day.
All right. So to whoever just asked that question about how engagement and how you can stay involved, these very things are what we're talking about. And Darnell, thank you so much for sharing that out and sharing that with us. And I will be sure to share it back out at the end of this as well, if anybody is interested in joining us for that too. So
definitely.
Okay. Let's see. I do, as kind of a follow-up to that question, in terms of how important it is for residents and community to be engaged in these conversations. Kind of a follow-up to that is what role do you see community organizing and community organizations themselves play in advocacy or in community development and advocacy? So what does community organizations, development such as this, how do you see them being able to play a role in advocacy and further community organizing? And then what momentum do projects like these have for that kind of thing?
Yeah, I think community organizing and advocacy play a very unique role in terms of developments like these, because again, these are the types of developments, oftentimes when there are developments that happen in our community, a lot of times they are sourced and are brought forth without our involvement. And in most cases, there is some other agenda associated with it that really kind of comes from outside the community. And so through community organizing and advocacy, community can be engaged in designing and developing and detailing the and influencing the solutions in terms of how these developments go forth and what the purposes for these developments are, that they're aligned with what community actually needs. They're aligned with addressing the impediments that they see as the issues that they see as impediments to their success. And so that's where I love the ideal of what the organizing effort around the quality of life plan brought forth, because it allowed the community to have a vehicle to really voice what it needs and what the individuals want, and a way to synthesize all of that into one platform, into a blueprint that any developer can take and know that when they are working and developing against this plan, they are actually bringing forth the things that the community needs and wants. And so that's how it should go. It's almost like we put the cart before the horse when development goes forth without these plans.
Well, and I would assume in terms of momentum, especially, from everything you talked about for this Aspire Center, it is fully funded, it is ready to go. And, that's only going to continue to build with the success of it. I would assume that builds on the momentum, not only for the Austin community, but for Chicagoland area as a whole, right?
It does. It builds. It's the interesting fact right now is that Austin, being a community that has for decades been disinvested, currently right now is one of the most invested communities in terms of real estate development right now. And what is even more interesting, a lot of these real estate developments are all being led by community-based organizations. And in some shape, form, or fashion, they have all taken heed, intersected, collaborated, and worked with in adherence to the community's plan. And so I think that is a new day. It's a new day in terms of how how real estate development for community purpose within a community area is being done, where the community is really owning its own transformation.
Love it. I love it. I'm here for it. Nonprofits, get ready, because it's going to be a new era for us.
Yeah, I know you touched on it briefly throughout the presentation, but I just wanted you to maybe highlight it again. Like, what would be the economic impact? What would this mean economically for the state of Austin when this project is up and running?
Oh man, you know what? I've often thought about that, because along with that, this concept of disinvestment, there's also being thrown around misinvestment. And what I mean by that is, it's not that there's sometimes investment in our communities, right? It's not that money or resources haven't come to this community. It's just, are they going to the right things? Are they going to the things that actually build the people up or provide opportunity for people to build themselves up, versus to be excluded or limited or torn down in some way in terms of, more punitive type efforts where mass incarceration and things like that, those cost money. Mass incarceration takes a ton of investment, but there's nothing building. You're not building an individual up in terms of utilizing incarceration. That's not lending to their development to advance in society. And so the economic impact for something like this, the economic impact for a project like the Aspire Center, is the focus is to really help provide opportunity for resources for individuals to be able to advance themselves, upward mobility, economically, financially, socially. And so just imagine what that's going to do in our community versus what investment has done historically in the past.
Mm-hmm. Sounds good. Sounds wonderful.
Okay. I am trying to figure out how the best way to ask this, because we've got a couple questions around it. But more specifically, it sounds like we've got a lot of organizations and residents who are really interested in being as involved in this process as possible. And you kind of already touched in terms of like how residents are able to get engaged and involved in this. But more specifically, how can nonprofits who are either interested in just supporting the work that we're doing, or maybe having a space themselves at the Aspire Center, what does that conversation look like? Is there maybe someone they can connect with moving forward to continue those conversations?
Yeah, so right now, given the way we've had to approach developing the center and the way that the center is funded, there's certain sort of adherences that you have to do with tenants. You have to have a certain number of tenants, anchor tenants, to be able to actually acquire certain funding. All of that has to be anchored. But as we get through construction, we actually start to move into the space of now looking at all of the spaces within the building that can actually be operational and where there's actually future tenant space. Once we bring the staffing on board for the Aspire Center prior to it opening in 2024, we will be releasing a process to the community around what spaces will be available and what that process will be to actually be able to consider or make a proposal to be in the building, because it's not just about filling spaces within the building, it's also about coordinating what's being provided within those spaces with the other shared spaces.
Yeah. Okay. And making sure that we're covering all need bases, correct? Okay.
Exactly.
Okay. Okay. So short answer to those of you who are wanting to be there, we're coming. We're not there yet, but it's coming with more information. Okay.
Yeah, but in the interim, you can continue to go to the ACT website where we update about this project regularly. We also publish a quarterly print and digital publication through the Austin Weekly News that is usually providing an update as to what the status is with the Austin Forward Together plan, as well as the projects that are going forth in adherence to it. And so that's a great place to be able to get updates pertinent to this and other development type projects.
Okay, so the ACT website. If anybody has any questions as to where to get that, feel free to reach out to one of us, but it's also austincomingtogether.org. We would love to connect with you. Let's see, we might have a couple more questions. Let me double check. But also we are coming to that point. We're getting to the last few questions. So anybody who is currently watching, if you've got that question, if whatever you were thinking about hasn't been answered yet, feel free, toss it into the chat. I will get to it as soon as I possibly can. It looks like we got a quick question about the AFT Summit as to whether or not it is virtual or in person. Darnell, do you want to touch on that really quickly?
It's actually in person this year. And this is our first in person since the last one we had in 2019. So we're back in person with the summit. We had some virtual forms of it during 2021, 2020, but we're very much back in person this year. So there's only an in-person option this year.
Okay. But if you come in person, there's breakfast and food, and we're going to be at the By the Hand Club for Kids, which is a pretty great space to be at. And you get to see all three of these wonderful faces. So,
and you get the fellowship with your neighbors.
Yes.
See? So all the more reason to come out to us on Saturday. Okay. So we do have one more question. And I'm gonna, again, one more, and then anybody else, if you want to toss that last question in. So we have someone who wants to know when we are expecting construction to be completed for the Aspire Center and when an opening date might be.
So right now, provided that we're able to go along with our construction timeline starting in late April, early May, we're told that it could be anywhere from 14 to 16 months in terms of construction. So that'll put us in the fall or early winter of 2024.
Okay. And then that we would be opening in that same time frame. Cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
Provided we don't have any any setbacks.
Fingers crossed, knocking on all the wood possible.
I'm learning in construction that there's such a thing called setbacks.
Well, we are hoping for none of those, but for those who are interested, yes, our goal is to open late fall, early winter 2024. Any last minute questions, comments, concerns, compliments for our wonderful guests and our incredible co-host? Okay, I think that's everything.
Bring your questions to the AFT Summit Saturday.
Yes, so just to reiterate, if you are interested in continuing this conversation, or if you want to just continue to be involved in these projects, because these are big projects doing lots of great, wonderful, impactful work in the Austin community area, we want to be sure everyone is informed as possible. Please, please, please feel free to join us. Let me share this up real quickly one more time. Again, if you want to take a look, the summit will be held at by the Hand Club for Kids. We're going to have an incredible panel option where we will be joined by Adam Alonso, Morris Reed, Athena Williams, John Zayas, and Danita Travis, and they're going to be answering some really great, really good, hard-hitting questions about these development projects and what's going on. So please join us if you want to have a conversation about all of it. Okay. Oh, okay. So we did get one last question. If we've got a quick second. Darnell, are you good for one more?
Sure.
Okay. So we have someone who is interested in what are we going to look like when it comes to the community spaces around Madison and Central. So as you had mentioned before, they had been some disinvested areas. And other than the Aspire centers, there are going to be some other investment along that street to kind of match with the new investment of Aspire.
Well, I can't really speak to, anything for certain in terms of like other developments happen along Madison, but the sense is that, or at least the way we imagined it and our goal is that the Aspire Center, this level of the investment and development happening at that intersection, we believe that it will attract more investment. It will attract more development of other, neighboring spaces, adjacent spaces along Madison and Central. Because again, this is Madison was once a thriving commercial corridor, and so is Central. And so we believe that it can be once more. It just needs a little TLC.
And that's what the Aspire Center is for. And the AFT Summit, if you have concerns or suggestions as what you would like to see, join us on Saturday and we can maybe have a deeper conversation about it.
That's right.
Cool. Well, that is all we have as the Austin Community Hub. Darnell, do you have any last comments, questions, concerns you would like for any of us or to pose for the community?
I would just like to say I really am grateful for this opportunity to share. We're in a new year, and I know that there is a lot of new things upon us, but a lot of the work that we've been working on for a number of years, we're continuing to stay dedicated to it, to bring it forth. And when these opportunities to come together, to go to summits or to learn more about these projects or to get involved with your community, I just want to say to everybody, don't miss them. Take advantage of them, because it's the opportunity for you to have the platform, for your voice to be heard, for you to be able to impact things that you want to see change, because you have some great leaders in this community that are really looking to bring those things to fruition on your behalf. And so partner with them, support them, and let's help Austin thrive.
Yes. All right. I want us all to give Darnell Shields a big thank you. Send him much love. He took the time out to tell us about the great work that he's doing with the Aspire Center and Austin coming together. So we definitely want to send our gratitude for that. Janelle will tell you more about the next Hub 101 that we have coming up.
So next one will be in February. We will be joined by CEDL, so Center for Disability and Elder Law. They're going to be telling us all about what you need in terms of end of life planning, if you're doing transfer on death, if you and your family own a home and you want to make sure things are taken care of before anything happens. Join us so we can have that conversation. They will be joining us on Tuesday, February 21st. We are super excited to have them. And as always, don't forget to join Summit on Saturday. If you have any questions, concerns, reach out to us here at the Austin Community Hub. Thank you, Darnell. Thank you, Austin. You are all fabulous.
Thanks, Danelle. Thanks, Imani. Great work. Summit on Saturday.
Bye, everyone.